studying philosophy, as you said already, at the time. And I'm really, really grateful that I found a community that took my questions seriously. Didn't make me feel bad for having questions, didn't feel me make me feel ashamed of that. They took them seriously, and ultimately they were able to answer those questions. And it was partly through that journey. I can remember even interactions with professors on campus. I started to go to some of my professors. I remember one professor, an atheist professor, who tried to make me feel like actually this Christian belief is crazy. And he specifically pointed to the virgin birth. He said it would be crazy to believe such a thing. And I went home and I remember that being really unsettling. And then the more I thought about it and the more I talked to people about it, eventually I realized, you know what? Christians believe some amazing things. I believe that Jesus was born of a virgin. But if you're an atheist, you actually believe in the virgin birth of the entire universe. You believe that the universe popped into existence from nothing for no reason whatsoever. So part of what we're going to be doing with these young people is helping them to figure out what's the question behind the question, what are the assumptions behind the challenges they're going to face, and therefore how can they interact with them well.
I love how you describe that these two guys on your team. Now, it wasn't just that they threw facts at you, or they didn't try to debate you, but they actually built a relationship. How important is it to have a relationship, and especially after you decided to follow Christ, right? Because you can have the data and be convinced, but you're also under pressure then from the outside, as you're describing that 70% of the high school kids that go into college. So there's got to be some kind of relationship as well, right? So
important. We see many people come to Christ for the first time through the ministry of RZIM, and they almost never write in and say, thank you for that really impressive argument. Thank you for that really clever reasoning. They say, thank you for treating me with respect. Thank you for taking my question seriously and giving me the dignity to be able to ask it. And that was certainly the case in my life. And that's what we want to convey to the young people that we're going to be dealing with at Refresh, that questioning is an act of worship. I really think that the health of the church in the years ahead is in large part going to come down to how we deal with questions. Are our young people going to be made to feel embarrassed or ashamed or like they're doubters in the negative sense for having questions? Or are we going to affirm them in their questions and say, hey, that's how you get to know someone, anyone you want to get to know as a friend. The way you do that is you ask good questions and then you pursue the answers. Well, that's what we want to do with God as well.
So you made the conversion, if you will, when you were a freshman in college. You ended up teaching philosophy at Princeton, right, and Oxford?
That's right.
How did Christianity and philosophy, how did you rectify?
It's going to be tough.
Because you're dealing with people that are coming to class, and basically, give us a layman's definition of philosophy.
Well, philosophy, I think, is really just pursuing the deepest questions of life. And that's what the Christian faith is all about. Now, like you've said so well, the Christian faith is not just about the head, but it's also about the heart, and God wants us to love him with our whole selves. But he also created me with a mind. So I also think it's reasonable for me to think, well, thinking hard and creatively and prayerfully about him should also point me in the direction of God. And that's the conclusion that I came to. And as I started to look into the philosophy and the history, I actually was blown away. I assumed that faith needed to be blind. But actually, as I began to read through the Bible, I got through the Gospels, I was just overwhelmed with the person of Jesus. Then I got to the Acts of the Apostles, and I started coming across words I never expected to find in the Bible. Words like reasoning and disputing and debating and examining. The word persuaded is actually the word that's most used for when someone comes to faith. And I thought, wow, I had assumed that this was a blind faith. I was being asked to take a blind leap into faith. Actually, what I'm being asked to do is pursue God, not only with my heart, but also with my mind, and to take a grounded step of trust in him.
Old Testament scripture, come let us reason together.
And you see Paul reasoning with the people at the Areopagus.
That's right, in Acts 17.
Yeah, and
he's not just another pretty face. He can pull that stuff. Way to go. Nice pronunciation there.
Thank you.
Vince Vitale here. So I can see how that the transformation that was happening inside of you, and as you impact, how many years did you teach there?
I've been teaching, and I continue to teach as well, about 10 years.
Okay. So you had the opportunity to field questions and thoughts, and in some form or fashion, persuade them in a way that Christianity was an option, right?
That's right. I've had experiences of lecturing in classes at Princeton on the problem of evil in philosophy. Could it be the case that there's so much evil and suffering in the world that a good God couldn't exist? And I've had the privilege of being able to lecture on that. One young woman came to office hours after that, and it became clear after a few minutes of talking that actually this was a very personal question for her. She was seeking God personally and not just abstractly, and was able to connect her with a campus minister on campus, and she wound up giving her life to Christ. Awesome. So just so encouraging.
That's awesome. I hate to cut you off, but we've got to go to a hard break. Vince Vitale here from RZIM. We're going to talk about Refresh here after this break. It is Tuesday edition of Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
We'll be back. Stay right there.
The IRS doesn't mess around. If they want your money, they'll take it. They can take your paycheck and bank accounts too, even threaten your home or business. And it's about to get worse. The IRS just hired an army of new tax enforcers. So, if you owe back taxes, the smartest thing you can do is call Optima Tax Relief. Optima has access to a special IRS tax assistance program called the Fresh Start Initiative. And their clients that qualify are saving thousands, even tens of thousands. One call starts the process to stop the demand letters, stop aggressive collection actions, and stop that army of new enforcers from targeting you. But don't delay. It's important to act now while you still have options. Optima is A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. Optima has already resolved over $500 million of tax debt for their clients. Get your life back. Call now for your free consultation.
Call 800-711-5743. 800-711-5743. 800-711-5743. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. Think you can't manage the down payment it takes to purchase a new home? Think again. You could move into a $150,000 home with as little as $1,500 down with our 1% down payment option. The rate today on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.875%, APR 4.12%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to QuickenLoans.com.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
2 little tablets is all it takes to make your thin hair feel and look thicker and fuller. Guaranteed. Viviscal is the #1 drug-free hair growth supplement in the U.S., with one box being sold every minute globally. It's clinically researched to promote existing hair growth for men and women. And now a 90-day supply of Viviscal is offered in your area risk-free plus free shipping. Call 800-347-6435. Viviscal nourishes thinning hair from within. You'll love your hair growth results, guaranteed. Viviscal is so effective, it's recommended by top doctors. Here's Dr. John Laura.
As a dermatologist, I feel confident recommending Viviscal. It's backed by 25 years of research and multiple clinical studies that demonstrate Viviscal's effectiveness in promoting the growth of thicker, fuller hair.
Want to try Viviscal? Every listener that calls now gets a 90-day risk-free supply plus free shipping. Call now, 800-347-6435. 800-347-6435. That's 800-347-6435.
And now, Jonathan Cahn opens up today's mystery from the Book of Mysteries.
In the Book of Mysteries, the teacher leads the disciple into a chamber in which stands a large golden stone model of the Temple of Jerusalem. And there he opens up the mystery of the Tamid. Every day in the temple, 2 lambs were offered up. Each was called the Tamid lamb. One was offered in the morning to begin the sacrifices. The other was offered in the early evening to close the sacrifices. Now the mystery. The morning lamb was offered at the 3rd hour, 9 a.m. Messiah was crucified at the 3rd hour, 9 a.m. The evening lamb was offered at the 9th hour, 3 p.m. Messiah died on the cross at 9th hour, 3 p.m. You see, Messiah is the Tamid. And there's a mystery to the word. Tamid means continually, always, and forever. Messiah is your Tamid, the one who's with you, whose love is with you continually, always, and forever.
What you just heard comes from the Book of Mysteries. Get it online or wherever books are sold. And at mysteriesbook.com. That's mysteriesbook.com.
Napa know-how.
Buckets are good. Good at storing, carrying, and hauling all kinds of stuff. But the Napa bucket for $3.99 does more good than that. Like getting you 20% off 3 or more items that fit inside. And donating $1 to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. So do our soldiers and yourself some good. And save 20% with the Napa bucket. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
At participating Napa Auto Parts stores while supplies last. Exclusions apply. Offer expires 7/31/17.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Faith Talk Live with Rick Probst and Dan Ratcliffe. Now gluten-free with no preservatives added.
Thank you for that. It is the Tuesday edition of Faith Talk Live. I am Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe. Happy birthday, Rick Probst.
It's my birthday, so I can forget that you have the mics on, and I'm just talking to Vince Vitale.
No,
we're just chatting here.
You just join us whenever you're ready.
Because it's my birthday.
That's right.
Awesome. What a great day. Thank you so much for being a part of Faith Talk Live. And Vince Vitale here from RZIM. We're going to talk about Refresh, something that is coming to the Zacharias Institute, the 18th through the 22nd of July. We'll get details here in a second. Don't forget that if you're a pastor and a pastor staff, you can check out the Pastor's Appreciation event coming up in October. It's the 19th. This year, Dr. A.R. Bernard is speaking. You can sign up and find out more at faithtalkatlanta.com.
Yes.
This is this guy here, and thank you for being user-friendly, because sometimes I think apologetics in the past, now Ravi has really brought it. I mean, he can get deep, but he can also break it down for somebody like me that I can understand it. And if it's not broken down and you can't understand it, it's really worthless, isn't it? Thank you for explaining on layman's terms even the questions that we had while we were in break, because I think these things are crucial to answer. Dan had a great question, which go ahead and ask that question. I think everybody wants to know.
Yeah, well, you talked about how students a lot of times have questions that they haven't had answered. And my question was it because has the church created a culture where it's almost seen as bad to ask questions about the faith? And maybe that's why they haven't asked these questions before.
I think at times we have. And when we do events, we've seen in the last year probably a wider turnout than ever before for our events when we do stuff on campus. And I think it's because people are just not finding spaces where they can ask their honest questions, and people want to take them seriously and are not intimidated by them. And we'll just have lines of hundreds of people waiting to talk to us after the events because they finally have a space where they can ask their question. My wife, Jo, and I, we have a friend named Nicole, and she asked us if we would go to dinner with her recently. She wanted to talk about some questions of faith for the first time in a long time. And she shared with us that as a young kid, she asked her church-going mother, did Jesus really rise from the dead? And her mother responded, Nicole, don't be difficult.
Wow.
And I think too many people have a story like that. That was probably the last real question that she ever asked about God. And today she's one of the most intellectually accomplished atheists that we know.
Wow.
So that's what we need to change.
Wow. Listen to the effects of that.
Yeah.
Not answering a question. But questions can be challenging and difficult. And if you're not prepared for it, I don't mean you, but somebody like a parent, and you're like,
What a responsibility for parents to know why we believe what we believe and be able to defend the faith and pass that on to our kids and not just say, well, don't ask the questions, just believe it blindly.
And part of it is about being prepared. 1 Peter 3:15, always be prepared to give an answer to anyone, to everyone who asks you for the reason, for the hope that you have. And the reality is, if you're listening now, if I say to you, what are the 5 questions that you hope your kid will never ask you about the faith? Because you know you would have no idea what to say. They immediately jump into your mind. You know what they are.
Right.
So what we're trying to do as a ministry is say, you know what? Let's take that seriously then. If you were applying for your dream job and they sent you the questions 3 months in advance, you'd take some time preparing for those questions. Well, how much more important the questions of our children? Let's take some time preparing both ourselves and them for those questions as well.
Well said. Vince Vitale talking about Refresh. He's from RZIM. You can go to rzim.org and find out about what's going on the 18th through the 22nd. You said something about 20% when we were
That's
when
right.
mics were cold.
That's right. rzm.org, Refresh, Ready for College. We're aimed specifically at high school students and college students. And if you use the code SAVE20 when you register, you'll save 20% on that week. It's going to be 5 days of mentorship. Ravi, Zacharias, and many other members of our global team. We really don't want this to just be talking at people, but it's going to be one-on-one time, asking your questions. We're going to do full sessions where all we do is answer whatever questions get the most votes. We really want the students to be the ones who are driving the content of this week.
A couple of years ago, Dan and I had the opportunity to stop by RZIM and just sit down with Ravi, which it was, he's such a busy guy, right? But he was so kind and generous with his time and so thoughtful. It's almost like, wow, this is amazing. We had a great time, and we appreciate RZIM and what you guys do. And your heart. It's not just about throwing facts and figures and trying to, you want to persuade people, but there's heart. There's heart with it. So you're opening this up for questions, which, like we mentioned, it's a challenge. Are there maybe the top three? What's the number one question you usually get, you think?
The number one question, it's a good question. Let me give you a few.
Okay.
Questions having to do with suffering are always there.
Yeah.
Both, does God love me, and if I'm suffering, which is a more pastoral question, and also, could God exist if there's so much suffering in the world? Especially on the college campuses, you get a lot of questions about science. Has science disproved God? I wish I had time to talk about that at length. I think science points so strongly to God, but you just hear these rumors that science disproves God, and you assume that might be the case. Lots of questions about the morality of God. People now, they can pick up their smartphones. They forget that just because it's a smartphone, it might not be a wise phone.
I love that.
And you just Google worst verses in the Bible, and all of a sudden, completely out of context, people are throwing these verses at you, and so you really need to know your Bible. And then, if you can believe it, actually, questions about suicide. We get those questions more and more frequently, and more people saying that's the question that we need to answer.
And do the questions vary by age? I mean, are younger people asking different questions than older folks are?
I think that's true to some extent. The younger that we get, the more we see that attack on the character of God, the more we see those questions of ethical and cultural issues, specifically the Christian vision for sex and sexuality. Those are questions that come very strongly as well.
I guess the older you get, if you've been a part of the church or whatever, or you've been here in the United States, most everyone has heard the message of Jesus Christ, right? You just say, okay, as somebody asks you a question, you say, well, just because.
Right.
But the younger generations, they want more than
That's
just
not
because.
Good enough for them.
And more than I told you so. They want to know what's going on.
That's right. And you said it well, that, as a ministry, yes, we do apologetics. We deal with people's questions. But really, we're just excited about sharing Jesus with people. And so the reason that we deal with questions is not because we love philosophy. It's not just for the sake of it, but it's because we happen to be living in an age where people have a lot of hard questions. And so if we're going to reach them, we need to be able to respond to those questions in an accessible and compelling way.
Vince Vitale, it is Refresh. It's coming up July the 18th through the 22nd at Zacharias Institute in Alpharetta. You can go to rzim.org, and there's a 20% discount, I think you said, when you go on there. You can check that out. What is it like for you when you are interacting with young people and you see the lights go on? Here are people that are armed to the teeth, right, with questions, and they're deep questions. They're not questions like, let me find a question for them. These are deep in the heart and in the mind of these kids. I've got to know this. And then when you share, or whomever, from RZIM for Refresh, and you do another thing called Reboot, when the lights come on and you see it, how does that make you feel?
Unbelievable. What an incredible privilege, and something that God could so easily do himself. He doesn't need us to reach people, and yet he gives us that incredible gift. And the places that we see it are amazing. 2 months ago, I was on the campus of UC Berkeley for a week. It was about 10 days after the riots there. No one thought the gospel could get a hearing in that context. And yet, if you treat people with respect, if you take their questions seriously, and then if you invite them to Jesus, you'd be amazed at the answers and the responses that you get. I mean, sometimes we forget that if you don't actually invite someone to a party, they're unlikely to just show up.
Right.
And sometimes we deal with people's questions, and we tell them about our faith, and we tell them how excited we are about Jesus, and we never just say, would you like to be a Christian? And I remember one student who became a Christian, and we asked her, why didn't you become a Christian sooner? She wasn't someone who had some huge obstacle or objection. And she paused, she thought about it, and she said, I think I just needed an invitation.
Wow.
So we try to be invitational in the way that we share the faith. Just one other guy who came to faith recently just jumped into my mind talking about the excitement that only Jesus can bring into a person's life. He journeyed with us for a week. He decided he was ready to trust Christ at the end of that week. He bowed his head in prayer. He prayed the beautiful, raw prayer of a new believer. And at the end of it, these were the very first words out of his mouth as a Christian. He said, "I have always felt alone and like I had to wear a mask. But now this is the first time in my life that I can take off that mask and be fully myself and fully alive." No one can do that but Jesus.
Wow. I love that.
That's amazing. And one thing I've always loved about Ravi and just everybody there at the RZIM, and just watching videos of him interacting with students, especially on campus, when they ask questions. And a lot of times they're almost kind of, ready for a fight when they get up there and ask the question. But just the way he gently answers the question. And by the end, you see that they're kind of disarmed. And that's so key, to not get in that fight that they want to get in, but just gently and humbly answer the question.
That's right. We always receive questions as a gift, because the answer to any question, any legitimate question, the answer is something true. And all truth is grounded in God.
Right.
So I don't care what your question is. If you've asked me a question, you've given me a gift, and you've given me an opportunity to share something about who God is and what God has done.
Vince Vitale talking about Refresh. It's July the 18th through the 22nd at the Zacharias Institute in Alpharetta. You can go to rzim.org to find out more. One more segment. We're going to maybe we'll come up with some questions or something. This guy is amazing. Thank you so much for being a part of Faith Talk Live, the Tuesday edition. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
Stay right there.
Here with today's PowerPoint is Jack Graham.
Psalm 19, 1 through 4 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words whose voice is not heard. Their measuring line goes out throughout all the earth, and their words to the end of the world." You see, God does speak to us today. He speaks to us in the skies through his creation. We can know God, we can see the light of God by simply looking up into the heavens and knowing that he is there. The Greek word for man in the ancient world and in your New Testament is anthropos, which means the upward-looking one. Animals look down, but God created us to look up into the heavens and to see his glory and experience his power in creation. Yes, indeed, God speaks to us in the starry skies. Indeed, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the psalmist says, "Day to day pours out speech, and night to night offers knowledge." Creation is constantly and eternally speaking. And when we look into the creation, we know that because there is a creation, there is in fact a creator. Now, you may not be a morning person, but I would encourage you, if you want to catch a glorious glimpse of your Creator, get up early one morning this week and watch that sun rise. And I can assure you, you will marvel at his handiwork, the handiwork of his creation, and it will speak wonders to your soul.
You can find out more about Jack Graham and PowerPoint Ministries when you visit us online at jackgraham.org.
Do you or a loved one suffer from substance abuse or mental health issues? Decision Point Wellness can help. Decision Point Wellness is setting a new standard of excellence for substance abuse and mental health treatment. Their innovative outpatient programs provide clinical expertise, lifestyle flexibility, outstanding client service, and long-term recovery success at a great value. Decision Point Wellness provides treatment programs for adult men and women regardless of their past treatment experience or type of substance abuse disorder. Located in Johns Creek, Decision Point Wellness is a local option for substance abuse help. You don't have to leave your job or your family. It's a convenient, effective, and affordable alternative to a 30-day or longer rehab program. If you or a loved one is struggling with substance abuse or mental health issues, don't delay. Call Decision Point Wellness for a free assessment at 888-892-8178. Safe, affordable, effective. Decision Point Wellness. dpwellnesscenter.com. That's dpwellnesscenter.com.
Faith Talk Live with Rick and Dan and Faith Talk Atlanta. Proud to partner with Mike Reese of Decision Point Wellness. Decision Point Wellness, setting a new standard of excellence for substance abuse and mental health treatment. Find out more at dpwellnesscenter.com.
Faith Talk Live with Rick Probst and Dan Radcliffe on Faith Talk Atlanta, the choice of discriminating listeners throughout Greater Atlanta, and also those who tuned in by mistake.
Love it. It is the Tuesday edition of Faith Talk Live. I am Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Radcliffe. Happy birthday, Rick Probst.
Thank you so much. And what a birthday present to have the folks here from RZIM.
I planned this out just for you. It's your birthday present.
Thank you, Dan. Wow. You know, average people get a birthday cake. I get the folks from RZIM. Vince Vitale here. That's
it's
amazing.
Much better than a birthday cake.
Somebody pinch me.
No calories, and it's awesome.
And good stuff. We're talking about the Refresh Conference coming up July the 18th through the 22nd, and we'll tell you how you can get a percentage off. You can go to a website, and we'll talk about basically what to expect when your kids show up. It's going to be huge there. Let's do this. You got the Providence thing from Alistair Begg. That's the USB, right?
Yes.
How can they can just get that through July or what?
I think it's through July. FaithTalkAtlanta.com. You can go on and there's information on there on how to get that. It's a whole sermon series on the life of Joseph from the Old Testament. With Alistair Begg, and of course Alistair Begg is just such a smart dude. And it's great. So
and we
check
love
it out.
his accent, don't we?
Yes, we do. I wish I could speak with a Scottish accent like that.
You can get yours. It is free, right? FaithTalkAtlanta.com. Tomorrow's show, C.J. Stewart. He is the CEO of LEAD. We're going to talk to him. And Ross Wiseman is coming back on Thursday from Momentum Church in Woodstock, right? And then on Friday, Aaron Snow, the lead pastor of Christian City Church, North Atlanta. It's going to be a great week.
And you know what? Mr. Vince here was just on stage with our friend Louis Giglio, because we talked with Louis last week about his new book, and you were on stage with Ravi and Louis on one of the Sunday morning services. How
That's so cool.
Oh,
that's amazing.
Amazing. What a privilege. And to see the behind the scenes working of Passion City Church as well was such an encouragement. Just to be there for the prayer meeting before the service, to see the culture of encouragement, to see the culture of prayer there, very, very encouraged. And to be on stage, I can't think of two more humble men to be
I would
on
agree.
stage with. Just incredible models to me.
Awesome.
You can find out more about this Refresh Conference. It's coming up the 18th through the 22nd in Alpharetta, the Zacharias Institute, rzim.org. Again, the 20%
That's
you were
right.
mentioning.
So when you go to register, if you put in SAVE 20, SAVE 20, then you'll get 20% off for that week.
You know what? Your kids may be grown, they may be gone, they may be past college age or high school or whatever, but no doubt you know somebody that you can point them to rzim.org and find out more and be a part of it. Do you find that apologetics and evangelism, for years it seems like the church kind of stayed away from apologetics. It's a little scary, it's a little hard, it's a little difficult. Maybe we just take a tract, throw it at somebody, and we split. And because evangelism is difficult, but you're kind of in the vein of, which I love, conversational apologetics or evangelism. How cool is that? Isn't that the way it should be?
Absolutely. So much of evangelism, apologetics, it's just about being a good conversationalist and taking that seriously as a spiritual discipline. Oftentimes, you ask someone if they're a Christian, do you know your Bible better than you did 5 years ago? Hopefully, yes. Do you know more theology than you did 5 years ago? Hopefully, yes. Are you a better conversationalist than you were 5 years ago? A lot of people find that a lot harder of a question to answer. But when you read through the Gospels, Jesus probably had as great of an impact through conversation as he ever did through his upfront speaking. He was an amazing conversationalist. He was an amazing question asker. He often responded to a question with a question, which showed what was behind the question. And I think we need to take that model. If you're a great question asker, I think sometimes we find it so hard to get from shooting the breeze to Jesus, because we spend so much of our time just shooting the breeze.
That's well said right there.
Yeah, because we go from, how about the Braves game? So what do you think about...
Exactly.
Yeah, how do we do that?
Exactly.
What do we put in the middle to kind of bridge?
In the middle. And I think it's good questions. Here's a question, one of my favorite questions. Have you ever had an experience that has made you think there might be a God? You ask that question of people at the appropriate time and just give them a second to actually, don't just fill the space because you're, afraid of the awkwardness of the silence, but actually make people deal with that question and answer it. People will tell you the most amazing stories and you'll think, wait a minute, You've experienced that? That has God's stamp
Right.
of approval all over it. You're telling me you don't believe in God and you've experienced that? And then you
Wow.
see their gears begin to turn because they haven't even put these two things together. I claim that I don't believe in God, and yet I've had that experience in my life. Another question I like, what causes 80% of your stress in life? First time I ever asked someone that question, they said, people like you asking me questions like that. I said, what about the other 20%? We had a great conversation. But could it be that you just have a handful or two handfuls of questions that just get you into that middle ground? It doesn't have to be explicitly spiritual to start with. But if we're just in the habit of having meaningful conversations, I find Jesus makes his way into those conversations quite naturally.
Do you have a list or a book or something
I
that
do.
folks can...
I do. I teach on this, and I have a list on my computer. And I'll try out those questions. I like taxis, planes, and haircuts. You got to deal with my question whether you like it or not. And I just read over that once in a while. And if I ask a great question, and I keep that on the list. If I ask a question that doesn't lead to a good conversation, I take it off. If you ask me a great question, I put that on the list. Once in a while, I just read through that. And I think it's just part of caring for people. It just means I want to ask someone a real question, and I want to give someone a real answer when they ask me a question. How about the question, how was your weekend? If you are a church-going Christian, the question, how was your weekend, is an absolute gift. And we usually just say, fine, thanks. Not bad. How was yours? What if we said, actually, it was really good. I was doing stuff around the house on Saturday, but Sunday was great. Spent the morning at church. That's always a highlight for us. Do you ever go to church? No, I never go to church. No, we never used to either. But about 5 years ago, a friend invited us along. We found an amazing community and support there. We'd love for you to join us sometime. That's not that weird.
He made that seem easy, didn't he?
Where were you 35 years ago?
Wow. Talk about transitions.
Well, he wasn't even born, was he, 35 years ago? It was so smooth.
Yeah.
It was so natural. And that's how it should be.
I think so. And to be honest, that's just a more honest to the answer to the question.
Yeah.
If I've had a wonderful time at my church on a Sunday and I've engaged with God and with my community, if someone asks how my weekend is and I said, fine, thanks, that's not even an honest answer. What I just said to you was actually just a more true answer to the question.
Right.
Wow. So what do you tell high schoolers? Because, Refresh is for high schoolers going into college and college students who may think, well, that's, adults can do that easily, but that's not easy for us.
Yep, and it's really not that different. Yep, the language might change a bit. The interests of what the people you're engaging with might change. But asking good questions in your context, that's universal. Having a good response to a question, that's universal. And part of it, too, is just really cementing home for students that being a Christian is not about being an answer person. It's not about having a perfect answer to every question. And actually, sometimes the best answer is just, I don't know, but I'll look into that for you. And I'd love to get together sometime next week and talk about it.
I love that.
That's so key.
And actually, someone's even more impacted then.
Yeah.
It's better than if you had the answer in the first place, because then you show you cared about them enough to go and invest in their question.
Right.
You get together with them the next week, and they've spent that week then knowing you're going to talk about that question, so they're thinking about God through that whole week, and then you get together and you have a great conversation.
That's just brilliant,
So
isn't it?
often we feel like we've got to have all the answers, like we've got to be Ravi Zacharias, so we can
Yes.
just get it off the top of our head. But no, we can say, I don't know, but I would love to look it up and check
We're
on
just
that.
afraid to say, I don't know.
That's right. And who's attracted to being a Christian if what it means to be a Christian is that you have to have every answer?
Yeah.
Well, then, that's a works-based salvation,
Yes.
and that's something you think you could never attain to.
Yeah.
It's actually very healthy for us to say, I don't know, but say it confidently, and that has no bearing on my confidence in who Jesus Christ is or my